they, Peglers.
What's that, darling?
I said I bet they're Peglers. The taps.
You and your miserable household fittings. Can't you keep your mind off your job for one moment?
You seem to forget we're over here on business. Or at least I am. Anyway, you should grumble. You're just over here to see the sights.
And what sights have you got lined up for tomorrow? The industrial exhibition. Why didn't I marry a peaceful, stay-at-home type? You know, mothers ought to add buyers like you to the list of things they warn little girls about.
But tomorrow's the last day of the exhibition.
And it's our first day in London.
Last go. That's the main reason why we came over. Anyway, it's interesting.
Interesting. You ought to listen to Children's Hour. It's thrilling. Taps, bibcocks, sink traps, globe cocks, waste plugs. Oh, darling, look, there's one of those heavenly... For better or for worse.
There you are. Knew I was right. Same as Grosvenor House. See that 540 combination with the chromium-plated handspray?
See that chair with the chromium-plated legs?
Mm-hmm.
Mind if I sit on it?
Good, sit down. Excuse me. I've got a lot of work on order from you. Can you tell me when I'm likely to get delivery, particularly of the basin fittings?
From Johannesburg, South Africa. Well, it's very nice to be able to meet you personally, sir. Now, let me see. That was the order for basin fittings. 4 gross each of bath, basin, and sink fittings.
That's the one.
Well, they should be off any day now, sir. The position's pretty good.
Oh, that's fine. Got any new gadgets?
Yes. Have you seen our new 540 combination bath set?
I certainly have.
Did you know they were fitted in the bathrooms on the Royal train in South Africa?
That's interesting. I saw the train and the royal family, but didn't have a chance, of course, to go on board. Is that the Pegler factory?
Yes, that's our factory.
Surprised you need such a large plant to turn out taps.
Well, you see, sir, we make other things besides taps. In fact, everything, from bathroom fittings to steam valves. Besides, the work involved in making a tap is much more than meets the eye. The factory at Doncaster covers 7 acres and has been completely reorganized and brought right up to date since the war. From raw materials to finished product, every component is made on the spot. We don't leave anything to chance. We have our own foundry where we make all our castings. It's quite an interesting process. We start with a pattern plate which is used to form a sand molding of the outside shape of the required casting. The molding box is filled with sand from a hopper and mechanically jarred to spread the sand evenly. The sand is then rammed hard by compressed air so as to obtain a perfect impression of the pattern. The inside shape of the casting is made by inserting cores into the mold. These cores are also made from sand. Lengths of wire are worked into the cores to stiffen them, as otherwise the core is liable to sag or lose shape when taken from the core box. The making of cores requires a great deal of skilled handwork, as the sand crumbles very easily at this stage. Our young ladies have just the right touch for this delicate work. Afterwards, the cores are baked to harden them before the molten metal is cast. The simpler cores are made on automatic machines. The sand is blown into the core box by compressed air, and when finished is left in the bottom half of the core box until it is baked. The cores are carried through an automatic drying oven in about 55 minutes and are then ready to pass on to the foundry to be put inside the mold. The two halves of the mold are then placed together, and the completed mold is now ready to receive the molten metal. In the melting shop, ingots of the correct grade of brass, bronze or gunmetal are melted in semi-rotary furnaces after analysis in the laboratory. The temperature of the molten metal is carefully controlled by means of a pyrometer, and the whole process is under the watchful eye of a laboratory assistant. The molten brass in the ladle is skimmed before being poured into the molds, which are carried on an endless conveyor moving forward 5 feet at a time. While on the conveyor, the metal cools and becomes solid, ready to be knocked out of the mold. The sand from the mold is shaken through a metal screen onto a conveyor and is elevated into a hopper for use again after remixing. The surplus metal, mainly in the form of runners and risers, is removed from the castings. They are then taken away to be cleaned by shot blasting and for grinding in order to remove any fins and burrs. Castings, however, are only half the story. Large quantities of brass rods of different shapes and thicknesses are required to feed the lathes and the hot stamping machines and presses. So, copper and zinc, the main raw materials of brass, are melted together in electric furnaces according to specifications laid down by our laboratory. The metal is cast into water-cooled molds, which form 2 ingots at a time. Each ingot is cut into 2 billets, which are then reheated. When a billet reaches the correct temperature, which must be judged accurately, it is fed into a hydraulic extrusion press to be squeezed through dies into rods or bars of the required shape and diameter. Samples of the bar are taken to the laboratory where they are subjected to tests to ascertain their tensile strength. When the metal has been approved, the rods and bars go to the stores, ready for use. Some of them are cut into the required lengths for feeding into the great machines in the stamping shop, which produce an endless stream of tap parts, such as the body, the head, and the jumper valve. The dies used to shape the metal in the press are all made to the highest degree of accuracy in our tool room, where they are ground and polished to a perfect finish. In the machine shop, the capstan and automatic lathes swallow long lengths of brass rod and many thousands of pressings, while from them comes an endless stream of nuts, screws, small fittings and other components. Continual percentage tests are carried out to ensure our uniformly high standard of production. Here again, the smooth flow of work is made possible by the accuracy and quality of work carried out by the craftsmen in the tool room and the skill of the millwrights. Pressings are tested by blowing compressed air through them, so as to reveal any flaws in the metal, at once made visible by the appearance of bubbles. Before assembly, all the various parts are subjected to a final and careful inspection. The established Peglers standard of quality owes much to this constant checking and careful scrutiny of every one of the 750,000 components that are passed to the assembly shops each week. From these components, some 150,000 complete fittings are produced weekly. In fact, the number of weekly machining and finishing operations runs into many millions. In the assembly shop, the pressings, castings and machined components meet for final fitting and testing. Here, long lines of skilled operatives speedily assemble the various parts, and the tap at last begins to take shape. The body of each tap is stamped with our British standard license, marked number 31. So whenever you see that number, it's a Peglers. After assembly and testing, the taps are buffed and polished so as to give them a perfect surface for plating. In order to ensure a really durable finish to our taps, the complete product is plated, first with nickel and then with chromium. This is a most important part of the manufacturing process, as the well-known ability of the product to retain its fine appearance under hard and constant wear is in no small part due to generous and scientific treatment at this stage. When the fittings emerge from the plating bath, coated with a thick layer of gleaming chromium, they move on their conveyor racks through the thermostatically controlled drying ovens, and then to the inspection bay, where they undergo a final rigorous examination. The inspection is such that any flaw in the plating or general appearance is sufficient for the fitting to be rejected, even at this stage. The fittings are at last carefully wrapped in tissue paper to protect the fine finish before being passed to the dispatch department. Since the inception of the company, the emphasis has always been on quality. As a result, the name of Peglers has become a familiar one to the building profession, not only in Great Britain, but throughout the world. Today, Peglers Prestex fittings are being shipped to every corner of the globe, chosen because they incorporate the finest in design, craftsmanship, and enduring quality. Well, now perhaps you can see why this little factory isn't so small after all. Taps, of course, only represent half our total output. But even so, I think you'll agree there's more in making a tap than meets the eye.
I know that's true about Peglers. My father's been laying down the law about taps since he first went to South Africa when I was a kid. He can't get used to my talking about Prestex. He'll point to a Prestex order of mine and say, "You want Peglers there, my boy, Peglers." Don't know what the younger generation's coming to.
You tell your father when you get to Johannesburg that the younger generation of Peglers won't let him down, in spite of any newfangled names. And please give him our very best wishes.
I'll do that.
Hello there. I'm your wife. Remember me? Yes, a good boy. Now, thank the kind gentleman nicely.
Thank you.
That's right. Now, do you mind if we play at being husbands and wives for a bit, eh?
You know, Sally, I got a feeling...
Yes, and my tummy's got a feeling, too. It says food very loudly and clearly. Come on. This box got a nice Prestex mixer.
What's that, Sally? I can't hear. Turn off the taps.
I said this box got a nice Prestex mixer.
Peglers?
Prestex. I don't know what the older generation's coming to.